Ladies and gentlemen, make some noise for hip-hop history.
The local man accused of attacking Dave Chappelle on stage says he was triggered by the comedian's jokes.
Netflix employees walking out of the company's Hollywood office.
Hollywood's biggest night overshadowed by an onstage slap. Oh, wow. Wow.
You said what?
Oh, shit. Yo.
Bro.
Oh, come on. Dude.
And then one girl goes, "We think you're not entitled to be making some of the jokes you're making."
Do we want to talk about another comedian?
Well, Kevin Hart's job hosting the 91st Academy Awards lasted just 2 days.
That was the most racist joke ever.
And we won't tolerate jokes.
I don't think we should encourage the most easily upset, the most easily offended.
Out your fucking mouth!
The most hypersensitive people in our culture to establish a cultural norm.
This war on jokes must end.
I'm not giving a TED talk. My job is to be funny on stage.
We don't get angry at the person who's screwing us. We get angry at the person who's pointing out that someone's screwing us. And that's where I come in.
I like to stir the pot, bro.
This is what it's like to be you? How do you get through life like this, man?
Comedy is the hallmark of a free society where leaders tolerate mockery of themselves and allow citizens to laugh at their expense. You have accountability. In places where they don't, you have lies and propaganda. The places that we used to go for laughs have been replaced by overt political ideology. Late-night talk shows, once hosted by comedians, are now run by partisan mouthpieces. Television sitcoms promote political agendas. Blockbuster comedy movies aren't funny. They've all but disappeared.
I just wish your friends were as mature as you.
They are mature, actually. You just have to get to know them better.
Paging Dr. Faggot. Dr. Faggot.
Comedy itself is going away. Real comedy has survived by escaping the gatekeepers. Millions have stopped watching the woke sermons on television and have begun to look for alternatives. We interviewed prominent figures across the comedy business to learn how comedians are beating the system and fighting censorship. This is the current state of comedy.
Hi, I'm Ari Shafir, and I'm the Amazing Racist. Today what we're going to do is make fun of the Chinese, the Japanese, the Filipinos, the Hawaiians, the Cambodians, the Vietnamese. Hey, call them what you want. They're all Oriental to me.
Ari Shafir is a comic who can push boundaries, test audiences, and offend his viewers.
It wasn't my fault. I had one of those like 70% boners. You ever get one of those? It's like not all, I'm a little drunk, she's a little fat, you know, it's...
In an age of wide censorship, Shafir has managed to pack clubs and get millions of views online with his deeply offensive comedy.
Listen, any offensive comedian, we're just trying to make people laugh. If you get upset, that's a bonus, but that's not what we're going for.
Your eyes, it'd be good if you could open your eyes a little bit. Is your pussy like slanted? Ah! Get out of the fucking car! Get back to your country!
Fuck you!
People are like, aren't you sorry? I'm like, no, I made millions of people laugh. No, I'll never be sorry for something like that.
Till you're 90-something years old, you know, and you're like,
I think I'll masturbate one more time. I haven't masturbated in 15 years. My Parkinson's will help me with this.
The worst thing that could possibly happen is if you don't deliver the material you feel is funny, because you're afraid of backlash. The only thing you should be afraid of is the crowd's not going to laugh.
Television networks and Hollywood movie studios are now almost purely political. There's no room for comedy there. So real comedy is thriving where it first began, in clubs.
We've been producing comedy steadily from that time without missing a beat, including during the pandemic when we were the only club in the world running. And we've become what I think is one of the most recognizable clubs in the country.
Owners like Vidi Brand are making it possible. Brand runs the Stress Factory in New Jersey, where comedians who want to say what they actually think come, and they do.
As comics, our job is to kind of take the rough water and make fun of it. So if we can't do that for you, maybe you shouldn't necessarily go to a comedy club. Because here, the comics should be free to say what they want to say and let the marketplace decide whether it's good or bad.
We're kind of in like a weird word prohibition. Can't say this, can't say that. That's why I feel like every now and then we should all go to a politically incorrect speakeasy. Just somewhere we can all go to say horrible stuff and nobody cares. You go down some creaky stairs, you bang on a big steel door, the guy's like, what's the password? Retarded. Get in here!
If you came here to have your morals or ethics or you become educated, you should know that as a cohort, we're some of the dumbest people on the planet. That's why we're comedians, okay? That's why we're not lawyers and doctors, and we're not scientists. We are all flawed in some way.
Adam Carolla started his career in broadcasting on Los Angeles' K-Rock Radio. He then co-hosted Loveline and then The Man Show with Jimmy Kimmel. He's seen the business change dramatically over the last 30 years.
I started on a station that people work their career and never get to, and that was the first radio station I was on. But it wasn't political because we lived in semi-normal times.
All thanks to the women's suffrage movement. Led by Elizabeth Cady Stanton and Susan B. Anthony, pioneers in the field of bitching, moaning, and complaining. Now, girls jumping on trampolines. God bless you.
Carolla was hugely successful in the entertainment business, but he saw what was coming. So in 2009, he launched his own podcast, one of the first, a show that would inspire a future generation of comedians to escape the gatekeepers. To this day, The Adam Carolla Show is the most downloaded daily podcast on planet Earth.
I'm sort of a divining rod for society. As a comedian, you don't want to get in a position where you can't say stuff that you're thinking, because that's the death of being a comedian. You think this, you say this. I feel like they drew first blood, you know, like when they go like, you've changed, like you think I've changed, but I haven't changed. You've changed, you've gone nuts.
Podcasts like The Adam Carolla Show showed comedians they too could make it on their own. Luis J. Gomez hosts the most offensive podcast on the internet. He's built a platform to help other comedians speak their minds.
My name is Luis J. Gomez, and I am one of the owners of Gas Digital Network, one of the creators of Skankfest, and 1/3 of the Legion of Skanks, the most offensive podcasts on earth.
The most racist person ever opposed slavery in 1619. The one person who saw the future, that you didn't need to have black people working for free. I didn't think they'd work hard for money.
People talk about how cancel culture doesn't exist. It exists on such a cellular level. There's a fear amongst content creators, definitely amongst comedians, but without a doubt, I'm sure it exists across the board in the industry. There is a fear of getting canceled.
Well, Kevin Hart's job hosting the 91st Academy Awards lasted just 2 days. Hart stepped down following an outcry over previous homophobic tweets.
There's a fear of saying something that's going to offend somebody, and everybody, before they say anything, before they put out anything, they're overthinking every single aspect of it, right? That kills a flow state of creativity. And I think that is what cancel culture is. It's killing that flow state, and that's what's been canceled.
Dave Chappelle's show in Minneapolis canceled by a venue after a backlash.
Jimmy Dore, the host of The Jimmy Dore Show, has emerged as a leading anti-establishment political voice. He's also a stand-up comic.
I think I'm the leader of the dirtbag left. If I'm not, I'd like to run for that position. You know, we're a country full of adult children of alcoholics. We don't get angry at the person who's screwing us. We get angry at the person who's pointing out that someone's screwing us. And that's where I come in.
In America, first your father's president, you're born half a moron, and you become president.
Comedy is supposed to show where the establishment narrative is wrong. And what comedians started to do was to forward the status quo and start to, you know, embrace censorship. That's the opposite of comedy.
FBI agents raided Mar-a-Lago. Oh,
Is that comedy? It is now. The one thing the people currently in power can't stand is being made fun of. For years, they've publicly attacked anyone who dares to ridicule them or their sacred cows. They threaten the careers of entertainers and ordinary people alike.
We didn't care what Dave Chappelle was doing until you come for our community.
A controversy unfolding within the media giant, forced to listen to its workers.
In the comedy world, the vitriol has gotten intense. Who cancels whom and why? Here's what the comedian said.
Everybody say hell yeah. Hell yeah. Everybody let's say hell yeah. Start clapping, give it up for Jim Norton.
Jim Norton has worked in comedy clubs and on radio for his entire career. He's had specials and movie appearances. He's never been shy about the problems he sees in the audiences he encounters on the road.
The problem is the whole country We're 300 million hall monitors and snitches and tattletales. I'm not giving a TED talk. My job is to be funny on stage. Stop trying to be smarter than you are. Stop trying to appear like you're the voice of reason we all need to hear. Shut your mouth. Nancy Pelosi, 82 years old. Wow. Yeah, the third in line for the White House is 82. She doesn't feel 82 because she has great tits. And her husband likes to drink a bottle of vodka, slam into a wall doing 60 miles an hour. They seem like a fun couple to hang out with. It's, look at me, guys. Look how good I am. Look at how good I am. Hey, guys, come on my side.
There's a cohort of people that come out and they walk in knowing that they're going to be offended.
Let's go back and forth. Fuck it. I've been doing this shit 12 years. I'm sick of my shit. Go ahead, me and you, fucking 20 minutes.
One committed person can change a room.
It's never the marginalized group that is being offended. It's always a person that's very privileged. 99% of the time, it's some white chick in the crowd who this isn't what she wanted to hear in that moment, and she wants you to know it. And that comes from an extreme place of privilege.
I'm working on this.
Really?
Yeah, really, Sandy. Shut the fuck up!
That was the most racist joke ever.
No, I got like 4 more in the chamber.
She's not trying to protect another person. It's about her, and it's about her hearing a trigger word and being upset or pretending to be upset for her own, to make herself feel good. Yeah, it's just posturing.
I just wondered whether, A, have you seen the whole thing, or are you reacting just to the clips that have gone around Twitter today?
Yeah, so I haven't gotten a chance to see the full thing yet. Unfortunately, only the clips, which just aren't funny.
The people pretending to be upset are lying. It's a lie. It's always a lie. When people pretend that humor leads to bad behavior, it's a lie 100% of the time.
Dorks. Absolute dorks. I like going dork hunting. I like going and fucking sniffing out the dorks the way a pig would with a truffle. And finding them and exposing them for the fucking dorks they are. And when you get one of those comics to go, well, this joke is too far, it's like you've made them hypocrites. It's so joyous. It's so joyous to show someone what a hypocrite they are. They all have the quotes from George Carlin on their Twitter page. Your job as a comic is to find the line and step over it. And then they go, well, this one went too far.
So let's visit that playground of guilty white liberals, the land of the politically correct. Liberals should be taught that labels divide people, and I think we could probably do with fewer labels.
He'd be pushing back against all that stuff. He would be pointing out where the establishment is lying to you. That's the point of comedy.
You know, the trouble with this movement is that it only takes a few people to complain before everyone in power capitulates to them, and that's why it's so dangerous.
Paradoxically, widespread censorship has bred a new genre of satire. Comedians who mock the censors. Andrew Doyle is a British comic and cultural commentator who's thought a lot about what makes the illiberal left illiberal. Doyle created a character called Titania McGrath. She's a viral Twitter activist who parodies the left's outrage.
Titania was young, privileged, intersectional activist, because I very much saw this as the new religion. So really she's a preacher. She thinks of herself as just being morally superior to absolutely everyone. She's mirthless as well. She's got no sense of humor. Like, there's something in human beings that likes controlling other people. The appeal of authoritarianism is a human instinct, and it happens on the left and the right, and it recurs in various generations from different sides. Comedians have always mocked whatever the dogmas are of any particular era, and that's usually religious, but it can also be political or ideological. And this new movement, this sort of identity-obsessed social justice movement, is a new religion as far as I can see. Like all religions, there are the high priests, aren't there? And you know, there are certain key figures in this movement who you can identify. They don't trust humanity. And this is the way throughout history with these ideologies and religious movements. It's always about elites who think that they know better than the masses and that they need to control the masses for their own good. This is just the latest manifestation of this. There's nothing new in any of this.
Comedy clubs have had to deal with bigger changes in the past decade than any other part of the comedy world. They're brick and mortar. They can't move. They can be picketed. From smartphones to activism, club owners have had to navigate all kinds of challenges that didn't exist 30 years ago. Noam Dworman is the owner of one of the most storied comedy clubs in the world, the Comedy Cellar.
So the Comedy Cellar is like a 40-year overnight sensation. We're told to be like the most important club there is now.
The Comedy Cellar is a great venue because you have all walks of life, so you get to test material in front of white people, black people, French people, Latin, everybody walked through this room.
The Comedy Cellar's legendary reputation didn't prevent activists from mobbing Dworman after he let Louis C.K., a Comedy Cellar fixture, perform at his club after his Me Too scandal.
The Louis C.K. thing was the worst and only thing that I've ever been through, and it was horrible.
Boy, what a disaster this is right now.
For having a performer, I got physical threats. We had threats against the place, had terribly untrue articles written with false information that was impossible to get corrected. It's more than they didn't want him to have a platform. They objected to the notion that an audience that wanted to see him ought to be able to see him. People who understand principles of freedom got behind this rage in a way that was beneath them. You will become a hypocrite instantly, the second you lay down this as your marker.
Dworman experienced the rage of the mob firsthand, but he still sees reasons for optimism every night at the Comedy Cellar.
There are a number of people like Andrew Schultz, like Tim Dillon, like Joe Rogan, like Dave Chappelle, who are, giving the middle finger to this idea that they can't say what they want. And then they are packing huge theaters and venues, kind of laughing all the way to the bank, as they say. There's a new pathway to fame, which does an end run around kind of the gatekeepers.
Releasing material through social media and other streaming services has allowed comedians the chance to ignore the old gatekeeper.
It's really quite exquisite.
In the old world, comedians relied on TV shows to bring them to a national audience.
I was so ugly, my mother breastfed me through a straw.
Talk show routines were essential if you wanted to become famous in comedy.
I told my kid, I said, someday you'll have children of your own. He said, so will you.
But late night shows and network specials don't matter as much anymore. Comedians can release their material directly to a global audience, and they can do it online.
You've got this weird situation where the industry is being run by a lot of people who don't seem to understand comedy. That's a real problem.
Nobody can speak their mind and have a sitcom, and now you have 1,000 podcasts where 1,000 people are speaking their mind. So it kind of blew up in their face.
I know it would bother me if I had handcuffs on and another comedian came by and was allowed to say and do whatever he wanted. But those people want the handcuffs. They like it. That's the world they live in. They're legacy media guys. They really don't even understand this world.
And you know who's responsible? The lawyers. They always blame the talent and the on-air people. It's the stupid lawyers giving panic-stricken notes, worried about special interest groups, worried about one letter they got, worried about one email, one complaint they got. So what happens is you put talent in a little box and they can't be funny.
Their grip was so tight that it bulged out the bottom. And so they created Gutfeld. They created whatever new platforms people are using, and they created all of it because they went so hard. Of course it's gonna happen.
You had to wait for them to bless you, and now we're figuring out that you can bless yourself.
I don't know if I'm gonna have any energy for this interview.
Lavelle Crawford has been a comedian for a long time. He started the national Def Jam comedy tour, as well as the show Breaking Bad.
We are here to do a job. Hey. The thing about Barack, they called him a nigga every time. I do comedy shows. I turn calories into a salary. The nigga president, and I was highly upset at that. I'm old school though, He was never a nigga. He never did anything nigga like. Never nigga. When he walked in that office, he's not a nigga. Hugging his wife, holding her fucking hand. They always in each other's eyes and shit. That is not nigga things. When I was growing up, you had to face your bullies. Because now, we have a real nigga in office. It made you get better at something. Donald Trump is the realest nigga in the game. Him and his wife fought at the inauguration. He turned around and said, bitch, get your act together. Turn back around. I am not in the people-pleasing business. I'm in the laugh business. Make people laugh. Donald Trump is a real nigga. He was at a press conference in a foreign country, pushed a prime minister out the way. Move, bitch.
When he was nominated for a Grammy, he felt it didn't have much effect on his career. Why? Because what was once a landmark accomplishment doesn't mean as much in a world that's gone online.
It's the best kept secret in the world because it was announced on national TV, but, none of my peers really heard about it.
And so the best platform is other podcasts, comedy podcasts. We've made ourselves big. We keep pulling ourselves up, you know, and now we're like platforms for other people. And every stand-up comedian gets it. It's like, who do you want to see this? Some housewife in Arkansas who's never gonna come see your stuff. It was like, wow, that was well spoken. Or somebody who's gonna buy a ticket.
Black people, thank you for not wearing masks. I know you're not vaccinated, so I appreciate you doing that shit.
Social media have allowed comedians to connect directly with massive audiences. But these new forms of distribution have downsides. They introduce new forms of censorship. Comedians are now under the thumb not of the old gatekeepers, but of big tech bureaucrats. Nobody learned that the harder way than Seth Dillon of the Babylon Bee.
What we want to do is speak truth to culture through humor. I think humor is a very effective way of like telling the truth. Our tagline is fake news you can trust. We're writing obviously fictional fake stories, but there's usually like a kernel of truth to it. That's what makes the joke funny.
Well, you should know that my pronouns are they, them. So we can drive in the carpool lane.
I got a driver out here in the carpool lane says the pronouns are they.
We also became popular in, you know, the modern internet age when social media was a big thing. And so we were able to develop a following in those early days. You know, 2016 was kind of before a lot of this like censorship, fact checking, all of this stuff hadn't really started yet. So we were able to get our legs under us by building a following online off the back of our website and outside of the normal comedy channels. The main advantage of these platforms is the reach. The disadvantage is you become completely reliant on them for your reach, your traffic, your revenue, and so then you have to play by their rules.
When the Babylon Bee became one of the most popular satire sites in the world, big tech hated it. So in concert with the mainstream media, the tech monopolies moved to crush the Babylon Bee.
They rated this joke about how CNN purchased an industrial washing machine to spin the news in before publishing it. And Facebook fact-checked that and rated it false. And so we got threatened with demonetization and deplatforming if we continued to publish false news, which is just absurd. You know, it's a silly washing machine joke. It's not even that funny. What's funny is that they fact-checked it.
And the fact that they flagged this for being insensitive shows their complete lack of self-awareness.
It seemed clear that there's a political bias going on just in the way that they were treating us differently than other comedians and satirists. When The Onion would publish a story that would get fact-checked because it went viral, the fact check would read something like, you know, oh, well, this came from The Onion, the world's most famous satire site. It's a joke, you should laugh. And then we would get fact checked for saying, you know, the Ninth Circuit Court had overruled the death of Ruth Bader Ginsburg or something like that. Or AOC goes on The Price is Right and guesses everything is free. We'll have these jokes fact checked and rated false. You know, they try to cast it in some kind of negative light where these aren't just jokes. They're not harmless jokes. They actually are like misinforming people, and it's malicious, and that's actually our motivation.
My concern is when you start defining content that intends to degrade. My goodness.
You know, big tech companies have kind of leveraged that. They use that as a reason to threaten us with deplatforming, demonetization, whatever. And so they work in concert with each other. So we've seen that we've been treated differently, and the difference is we have different values, we have different views, and we make jokes at the expense of the popular narrative instead of in an effort to promote the popular narrative. They either want you to be silenced or they want you to join them in affirming these things or celebrating these things, and anything else is unacceptable.
Twitter's censorship of the Babylon Bee caught the attention of a business mogul called Elon Musk. Musk understood that when they silenced the comedians, civilization is at stake.
Wokeness basically wants to make comedy illegal. Do we want a humorless society that is simply rife with condemnation and hate?
It wasn't like he went and bought Twitter to free the Babylon Bee from Twitter jail. But what he did do was he bought Twitter so that people like the Babylon Bee could have a voice and so that comedy could survive.
Any freedom that comedians now have can be snuffed out by big tech, and they're fully aware of it. Increasingly reliant on social media for exposure and for advertising, many comedians are in a similar position to the Babylon Bee. They're grateful for the new platforms which reach millions, but they're wary of how monitored they are.
Social media has a very, very strong ability to also clip your wings. You gotta be big enough, right? Rogan is so big, he's so big, they won't clip him because they're making money there too.
The amount of people that listen to each episode dwarfs everything that's ever been written about me, ever, for sure.
Today, I am actively making content for enormous companies. I'm taking the risk. I shoot the video, I edit the video, I put it up. 40 million views, someone made ad money.
Google is the biggest, most profitable company in the history of the world. So when the New York Times writes an article about YouTubers radicalizing your kids, it's to scare advertisers away from YouTube. So then YouTube clamps down on us. And so now we have censorship at the behest of who? The money people in America, and that's a handful of billionaires.
So to insulate themselves from censorship, some have built their own digital networks outside of Google's control. Networks devoted fans watch in huge numbers.
When we created Gas Digital, a big part of that was because we recognized that a lot of the things that we were doing, we're not going to have a home on iTunes or on YouTube or elsewhere. Certain content is being filtered to you, and it's a lot safer. It's very often very politicized one way. You're not going to be able to say certain things on YouTube. You're not going to be able to say certain things on iTunes. That's all coming, and that's why Gas Digital exists. But we have to use those platforms. To be discovered by new like-minded people, we have to utilize those platforms. Those platforms are going to become the new gatekeepers.
It's a great time to be a comic. It will go away. I don't know what they'll do. They don't like us. They don't like us being this free. People don't like freedom like this. So they will try to hold it down. They can take the money away, but that's not who we are. The money's bonus. We're just as, the open micer is just as real as the guy playing Madison Square Garden. We're just comics. And as long as they don't take that away, they don't take away who we are. Stand-up comedians. But in the meantime, let's ride it out. Let's have a good time.
The fight for free speech is bigger than comedy. It's a civilizational battle. It'll determine the course of our nation for decades. Comedy and comedians are canaries in the coal mine. When they're crushed, that means no one can speak freely. If you want to live in a decent society, you have to fight for the right to make fun of the people in charge. Preserving the right of comedians to tell jokes, taking away the power to decide who deserves an audience and who doesn't, away from the woke mob and giving it back to the individuals, the artist, is as important an issue as we will face in our lifetime. Comedy today offers some signs of hope, but until the tyrants seeking to silence those who criticize them are stopped, the threat of censorship will hang over our country.
Now, what do you think they did a lot in the city of Sodom? They did sodomy, you guys. They did so much butt fucking, they named it after their town. That's how you know something is big in a place. When they name it after Buffalo Wings. We all know where those came from.
Amelia Earhart, famous lesbian aviator. Pretty much known for two things: eating pussy and crashing airplanes.
That was like a big thing online. They were like, you can't catcall. That was all white chicks. First of all, catcalling is not a white issue. Stay the fuck out of catcalling, white people. White guys don't catcall, okay? Black guys catcall, Hispanic guys catcall. It's not even called catcalling, it's called hollering, you fucking nerds.